Okay, let me just show you what we're doing here. This is where the carriage hand crank goes, and it has a wick right in the top. Now it's relying on that wick to get saturated with oil from whatever's sloshing around behind here, but there's a better way to do it, and that would be just to drill a hole right in line with that top of the wick there and put in a flip top Gets oiler. The 9-inch lathe I have has that right on there. So that's what I'm going to do. So this is my setup here. We're grabbing it over here because this is the only two spots here that are parallel. There's nothing really to grab behind here because there's a lot of rough casting behind it. But right here is a machine surface here, and then on the back side this is a machine surface. So I can get the grip there, and then we just have a machinist jack to hold out our end here. It should be more than enough to do what we're going to do. And we're just going to take a 1/4-inch end mill here, and I have it as far back as I can go to allow the quill to clear the casting here. And we're going to be about 3/4 of an inch from the end here, which is perfectly fine. And you can see we're right in the middle of where that wick is. So let me pop this back to where it's going to go. Okay, and we're just going to take a 1/4-inch end mill, and we're going to go through this. I'm going to use I'm going to engage the feed and use just the hand crank by hand, and we're just going to slowly go right through that. This is a 1/4-inch 4-flute end mill, and this was actually part of the set that was given to me by Dennis Nolan from Niagara, so I should be able to chew right through this cast iron, no problem. Alright, here we go. Now I can also feed up with a knee, but this is a little bit easier. Alright, so we're going to engage our feed, make sure we're in the right direction, and we are. Okay. Now I'm using an end mill because there is an angle to this, so the end mill will be nice and stiff and able to go through it. Plus, it'll give me a nice accurate hole. And there we go. There's our hole in the top. We'll be able to put our oiler right in there. Alright, so we'll go back to the bench and we can actually start putting this sucker together. Alright, let's see how these camera angles work out. I'm trying to show you as much as I can, but a lot of times I gotta get my head right over this to see what the hell I'm doing. Alright, so we got everything all cleaned out on the inside. Right now we're going to start putting it together. We're going to start with the lockout plunger. So basically what happens is this little bar slides in to the lever that will allow us to select our feeds and pins it in place when our half nuts are engaged. So what we're going to do here is take a little bit of grease, not very much, and we're just going to work it into this brush here. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit on. There's a little dowel pin right here. Alright, I'm going to put a little bit in this little hole here and this hole here. Now this is where a pin slides. Oil never gets there. And here's our pin, and here's our lockout lever. And we're just going to put a little bit of grease in that slot. and on the ends of this pin. And actually, we'll do it a little bit here. There we go. It's a little bit on the pin. Alright, so this pin slides in place here, goes through our lockout plunger, or our lockout bar, or whatever you want to call it, and into that side. So there's a little, you saw that hole where the set screw goes, so line that up. And we just tighten down our set screw. Okay, so that moves nice and free. Now, take our selector lever here. I'm going to give it a little squirt of oil. And that goes right into that hole there, with the notch facing towards that plunger. Oop. Like I said, it's kind of hard to let you guys see and me see at the same time, but we'll figure something out. Yeah, there it is there. So now what happens is, you can see that notch there when we activate our, let me move you just a hair, when we activate our half nuts, this slides in and catches that notch right there, holding, not allowing us to use our feed lever with the half nuts engaged, otherwise bad things will happen. So the other thing that goes on is right on the other side of that is an idler gear. And it's just a matter of getting all this lined up. There we go. And that idler gear is in place. Now there are three little, the groove faces towards the back, and these little holes here are oil holes. So oil will drip into there and lubricate the inside of that gear. Okay, next up is the half nut lever engager here. So there's a spring washer that goes on one side of it, and it fits right into there. And it can only go in one way. I'm just putting a little bit of oil on the pin side here. Now the way you want to put this in, the top should be facing down and to the left. It should curve down and to the left, not down and to the right. And we're going to take a little bit more grease. And we're going to lubricate the pin recesses where the half nuts go. Okay, so now next up is going to be the clutch mechanism. Now there's a piece of felt that gets wrapped around it. Now it's the same felt that's going to be coming up and feeding your two sides of your worm gear. So you want to make sure that you're relatively centered and you have enough to be able to do what you need to do, then you take your clutch mechanism, put all the stuff inside there. I didn't take this one apart because it's not sticking and I couldn't get this washer out. But you take the drawbar, put the drawbar through the center with the cap. This is our oil distribution washer. I straightened this out and I got rid of all the dings. And that sits in this little groove right here. And I already made sure that it spins nice without binding and it can rotate freely. And that gets dropped down from the top and we go right through the middle of this here. Okay. And that oil wick just stays behind that gear like so, so it's in the sump all the time. What I'm going to do is just pull this out a hair, put just a drop of oil in here. Okay, and I don't know if I can get a good shot in here. If the light's got to hit it just right, but maybe I can get a better shot handheld. But anyway, that goes there, and then on the other side here is actually a retaining nut. It should be in this bag. I believe it is this one. Yep. Alright, so let me just go clean this up because that looks like crap. Basically, retaining nut goes on there, and then the star wheel goes on top. Alright, so right about here there's a bar in the sump, and you got to wrap a wick around there to feed up into these other shafts. So you got to basically tie it off. So the way to do that is to remember your Boy Scout tricks here and do the slippy knot. So take the end here, go up, you make a loop, you go around the back of the main line, come through the loop, and pull against it, and there's your slip knot, and you should be able to slide it down into the sump. Around that bar. Alright, so I'll do that off camera so you guys can see the knot. Okay, so right down in there is the bar that it gets tied off in. You can see it there. Okay, so you can see that knot a little bit better. You have it looped around your bar at the bottom. You have your two pieces. You just take one piece, make a loop. Okay? Make a loop. Take this end, go around the main line and back through the loop again, and then just pull it tight, and you can adjust the length of the knot, and now you can just pull on this large piece and it'll tighten right around your bar. Okay, I got all my wicks in place. This one here comes through, comes up through this hole, and is tied off here. This one here, which will come into play later, It's tied off to the same spot, and through this hole is the one down there, tied off and going through the front. It's got a little bit of a twist in it. This is going to be a gear that's going to be sitting in here. And then the last one is just in that hole where we drilled the that new oil port. So we got to sit this gear inside here and adjust this wick so that it rides along the face and won't get caught in the teeth. And then this pinion gear goes right in there and a taper pin gets driven in. So I'm going to need to get my head in here. You're not going to be able to see much, so I'm going to do that off camera. Okay, so I got those two shafts in, and this gear is back on here with the taper pin. I just needed to get my head in there so you guys wouldn't have been able to see anything. Alright, so now we're going to put the worm gear in. I already have one bushing in place, and I have the felt routed through the bushing. So I'm going to take our worm gear here, and we're actually going to get a little bit of oil in that one, and we're going to thread it through. Okay, now I have to thread that other piece of felt. I gotta basically pull it. Actually, I can't pull it yet. I gotta put this on, and there's a locating pin here and a notch in the casting there. So basically, fits on there. Rotate it till it fits into that notch. A little bit more. Right in there. Alright, now that's in place. I gotta get that felt out this side. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to do it. I wonder if I can do it before might be able to do it before I put it in there. Alright, I was able to get that felt out. Now, let me see if it'll be easier to get this all lined up as one and then push in place. There. Yeah, definitely easier doing it that way. There it is. So pull this nice and tight. Just looking down in here, making sure we're not catching on anything. That looks good, something like that. So now you can take our lock ring here, push that felt down, and I'm just going to rotate Rotate that until, whoops, sorry, until I know where that hole is. The hole's right about here. And I have this little pin. Just make sure that I'm lined up where that hole needs to be. No, there go one more rotation tighter. Alright, I need to actually get my head in here, and I'm just going to line up that hole with the hole in the worm gear. Excuse the background noise here, but so I had to actually take this off and take about 5/1000ths off of that just because it was a little too tight. So now we have, get out the feeler gauge. Actually, we gotta go this way. We have 4/1000ths clearance on those faces, and that wick is looped up and underneath this on both sides, and I just trim the excess. So that's 100% in and where it needs to be. Alright, so now I'm just going to get the half nuts in there. Pretty simple prospect here. Little dovetail ways. That one fits on the bottom, this one fits on the top, and then this dovetail gets screwed into the side. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll come right back. Okie dokie, so we get the half nuts in there. Now this extra wick right here, it goes through this hole. You got to feed it through the pinion gear here, like so, and then out through the hole in the front of the casting, and then drop this sucker in place. So you got to get it in the right direction first. That'll help. So in there like that, through the hole in the front, and drop it right in place. The reason being is, we look at the front here, there's a shaft right here with an oil wick groove that goes into. So we want to make sure we're not twisted or as straight as we can be given the circumstances here. Okay, something like that. And then a little bit of oil will help us out here. Great. That wick just tore as I pulled it through, which I did not want it to do. But I think we can still salvage what we got here. Tweezers go. Okay, let's try this again. Once we get that in there, just want to make sure I can get that gear started on there. Okay. Kind of a pain in the butt to get this wick, trying to get it to do what you want it to do. Because it needs to stay inside the sump and not get sucked into the other side of the shaft, which it's wanting to do. Otherwise, it's just going to cut it. So, let's see here. There we go. That wick is still in place there under the under that gear. Now there's a pin that goes right in that gear to stake it in place. Okay, you get a center punch. Just want to stake that pin, make a little divot on either side, make sure it can't pull out. Alrighty, that ain't going anywhere. Okay, one of the last things we're going to do is put the sump in place, and here's the gasket that comes in the kit, so just put the gasket in place, put the sump on there. Okay. Now the last thing we need to do is turn this sucker around. We need to put on our hand wheel, selector lever, and half nut lever. Now the half nut lever, I just got to get a taper pin for that, but we can just pop it in place. It's no big deal, and we'll see how she looks. So they just go in with taper pins, nothing too fancy. So I'm going to do all that off camera, and we'll come back and see what it's like. I'm also going to put in the oilers. So there's an oiler that screws in here for the sump. There's two other ones here. There's one that goes, the long one here goes up top. It feeds the top of the half nuts, and then this other one here gets put into this side. So I'm going to put those in, and then that one that we modified for here. Alright, so we just took a little bit of a dinner break, got everything all back together again, and I just wanted to demonstrate the way this works real quick. We have everything back together again. The only thing I need to do is do some painting on the red. This is going to be red, and I have to put the left-hand screw in the center of this. The one that I have, the slot is really worn, so you either got to make or buy a new one, so that's why that's not in there. And I need a new taper pin for this here. It's just in there temporarily. So now the way I was explaining that interlock switch, that plunger, what that's for is so you can't engage your half nuts with your regular carriage feet engaged. So if you have your half nuts in the normal position, here, this lever will be able to move. So up here is going to be your traverse, and then down, sometimes you got to just move the gears around a little bit as it's going, is going to turn this gear and do your power cross feed. Now, as you can see, we have our feet engaged, and we're not allowed to engage our half nuts. But if we go into neutral, we can engage our half nuts fine, but we can't engage our feeds with the half nuts engaged. So that's what that little plunger interlock is. So like I said, just a little bit of paint touch up, and this is ready to go on the lathe. And here, tilt up towards the camera there, there's that new little Gitz oiler that we put in, and the other ones are in place here. So this one feeds that gallery up at the top here with the wicks, and this other one over here feeds directly into the top of the half nuts down here. So whenever you use the half nuts, give a little squirt of oil in this one, and it'll lubricate those half nuts. So I do have to make a new key, which is right here. So this is the key that rides in the actual lead screw that turns that worm gear, and it's got some wear on it, which is normal because it's riding in that groove all the time. And it's just a little bit, it's just a standard key with 2 little ears on it. So we can just take the next size up key stock and just mill it down, and to make it fit all nice in there. So that's going to be another little quick project too. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one.